Faith and Gould around competencies. So post Grenfell, people are now saying it's all right having a qualification, proving you can dig a hole, but you could have bought that, you could have got somebody to take the exam. Whereas having a video of you digging a hole, the competency, the actual demonstration of it, and speaking in English is a lot more valuable. So
definitely.
So she's thinking of building a system which links in. So basically, that there's competency. So imagine skills aligned to competencies. That's quite a powerful idea. So she's building a platform, or she's just about to press the button, I think, on building a platform. So she's been speaking to me about how to gear it up, and her technical team have been speaking to me, and they're going to speak to John as well. He doesn't know this yet, but they're going to speak to probably next Wednesday about this. So because all of a sudden they'll be storing potentially terabytes of data around videos and what have you. So
lots of data to store there, and lots of GDPR issues. But if we from an industry point of view, driving of competency is going to make the next significant change, in my opinion, to our accident profile.
So eyesight, what I've said to her is eyesight could be her anchor tenant. So the product we're developing. So that's what we're. So I'll talk to you a little bit about the work we've done on the cost in a second. But the idea being, if we've got this device wandering around a building site, Martin, which has got identification of who you are plus coordinates. Now, what it can do is it can immediately zoom up to the internet or to the cloud, however you want to say it, and it can authenticate with her system. And immediately, your person on site knows whether that guy's got a competence qualification.
Yeah, and it gives him then. So what that does then, from a practical point of view, it gives the site team the opportunity to make a informed science-based decision on whether that individual is permitted to continue working. So the challenge we struggle in the construction industry is, in my opinion, there's loads of really good intent. Tier 1 and tier 2, and then at the subcontract level, there's a massive shortage of skilled people. So we have got to get that job finished. We've got a time frame. It's got to be done by the end of February, and we need 25 dry liners. Now the thing that we want to do as a responsible business under our responsible business strategy is bring that guy that's probably, if we give him a score of competency 1 through to 5, 1 being least, 5 being the most, although I never believe you'll ever be a 5, because you get to 4 and then you go, well, actually 5 is another step on because there's something else to learn. We have to make a decision and go, well, he's not great, but he's better than not having anyone in that space at all. But it gives you the ability, if you know that, it gives you the ability to manage him more. And that's where, because what we can't do is build an industry where we preclude trainees, graduates, and people with less experience. But we should build an industry where we bring them in, like we did 40, 50 years ago. You brought them in, and then you spewed them out at the end, the most competent individuals you've ever had. And that's what this data for me is about being able to profile people and go, okay, we've got a gang of lads over there, and they haven't been on a tier 1 job before. They've never been on an ISG or a Mark French job. They've only ever worked in house bashing, which is different. So we just need to make sure we really set the tone with them properly.
So that's good then. So if you remember, when I sent out that use case, that was the principal area that I focused on in terms of doing that. And for me, just to give you an idea of I mean, John and I are going to start to work out the cost of this unit going forward, but we've had a conversation with a guy who's based at the C4DI, a gentleman called Chris Bird, and Chris Bird is this guy is a bit of a guru in mobile connectivity. So he built quite a big business in mobile connectivity, and so he's into these micro, tiny little SIMs that don't take up a lot of battery power, and you can sort of solder them on so that they can't be taken out and used by a thief to think they can make telephone calls. It's not. It's like a dumb sim, for want of a better word. Anyway, he could build so it would be better than Wi-Fi, because GSM type technology, you can link it into GPS, so you can deal with all the stuff we talked about with coordinates of where people are, and using triangulation, you can also work out if they're above sea level, below sea level, and all. So there's quite a lot of stuff you can do with it, but it will hopefully, and this is down to Hayden, really. He's going to work out, because he's building a prototype, I think, at the moment with it, isn't he, John? Yeah. So the idea is how much, how long will it last before a charge and all this sort of stuff. Yeah. But if we do that, there is a cost associated with the SIM, and it's like £1.50 a month, just to have that unlimited data. But, so over a period of a year, it's like 18 quid. So over 2 years, it's 36 quid. So but the actual cost of the device, I would be gobsmacked if we can't get the cost of the device when we finish this less than sort of $7, $8, $9. Would you agree, John?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and just on those SIMs as well. So if you imagine, like, it doesn't take a lot of effort to think of things that are useful to connect to the internet on a construction site or somewhere. Yeah. And the challenge in doing that is, well, you need to use Wi-Fi, which is power hungry. Then you need to kind of have someone to install and manage and maintain Wi-Fi. Then you need some way of actually putting a username and password into this thing. It's a total headache. And the reason you do that is because data SIMs are expensive to install, and also you can't uniquely identify them that easily. And that's why Chris's stuff is really exciting, because it solved those problems. It's a bit, it's the same technology. When you buy an Amazon Kindle, if you buy the one that's the GSM one, it just connects to the internet and downloads stuff. You have to work up. You haven't got to worry about any aspect of paying for it or billing it. Someone's hedged the cost of it, and that's exactly what this technology does. It's really smart.
So what we might end up with is a product which costs about 40 quid by the time we finish, Martin. But if we can get one or two anchor tenants to pay for it, then in effect it's paid for, and that's what we want to try and get to. Because I think we said before, we can't have a product where you pay 3 or 4 quid a month, because that's just, or 30 quid, 40 quid a year, because that will just make it, people won't go for it. Okay.
Yeah, and if you think of the numbers, it would turn off, because it's all well and good talking to tier 1s and tier 2s and the people that want this to be at the best place the industry can get. What we've got to get to is we've got to get to that ground worker who's got 200 lads that actually he has to sack 3 of them every month for drinking, and that's the world he lives in. He's managing those people, and if you suddenly go, yeah, you're going to have to pay this, you'll go, well, really? What? Why would I want that? And that's where we've got to that's where we've got to be able to demonstrate to him the benefits over the features, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So if you take what you said, if imagine a situation where everybody's buying a skills-based competency card, whatever it's called.
Yep.
And they're paying 100 quid for it. I've just picked a number there. But now, as well as they're getting the qualification that you want, they're also getting this device. It's absorbed into the price, but then that device can be used for other things on site.
Yeah, I guess one of the things that just occurs to me if I was a subcontractor and I'm running 200 men, it would be nice if it did time and attendance for my men.
Right.
Privately,
exactly that,
because obviously on Morgan Sindall sites, 60 to 70% of them we use biometric time and attendance. So fingerprint, you click in, and it tells you when you're on the site. And we use that commercially when a subby comes to us and says we need extra money to accelerate the program. You need to pay us extra money to achieve the deadline. And we'll go, okay, well, okay, do the figures, and they'll say, well, we want extra money for accelerated works, and then we'll come back to them and go, well, surely it would be great if your blokes were on site after 2:30 in the afternoon. Here's a report. And often that bloke is there going, literally, I've heard him go, fuck off. You're kidding me. My blokes aren't here after. He said, the latest when any of your men have ever been here is 4:30. and he'll go, I'm paying them to R5. So what we find, a lot of certainly the real dirty trades, concrete frame, ground workers, they have their own biometric system in the welfare as well. So we'll have our system, and there'll be another system, whether it'll be entropy, data scope, some of them are facial recognition systems. Now, so potentially some of these guys are already paying extra on every project. So if you had a system where everybody was made to wear that chip, and obviously you can tell if the two chips are walking around together, you go, yeah, your mate's wearing Martin's given John his for the day, and Martin's not actually there. You'd soon pick up on that because you'd see patterns and trends, wouldn't you?
Yeah, to be both like that, walking around exactly the same time. Yeah, of
course it would. But the reality is, if you had that time and attendance, which was really simple, and because some of these biometric systems that you buy are expensive and they're really complicated and they get into a real detailed GDPR because we log people's fingerprints. So you can imagine the level of control we put in place for that, because that's a proper intrusion into someone's personal data.
So if
you can turn it,
All I was going to say, Martin, was I want to come up with the 3 or 4 killer things we need, and for me, time and attendance is one of them. We've already talked about this. So I was going to approach a company like Zero Accounting or somebody like that, and the reason I was going to approach, to do things a bit differently. So if we approach, a company who would be interested in trying to flog systems to subcontractors, they may be able to actually help pay and fund the actual unit.
Yep. Okay. And because the challenge is to not approach the ones that are already in the marketplace, because they will hate this product.
Correct.
So MSite, BioSite, Datascope, all of those people, this is a risk to their business model.
So just on the MSite one then, right? So if we think time and attendance is a killer app.
Yeah, agreed.
We think the competency and training piece is probably a killer app.
Yeah.
We think the other two could be induction, site induction.
Would that not come under competency and training? So site orientation and induction as part of your competency and training aspect.
So the answer is possibly, because I know I've seen Wilmot Dixon's online induction system, and it does link to it punches out to CITB and CSCS.
Yeah,
and what have you.
As does ours.
Yeah, so as does yours. So why don't we call it site induction and training, time and attendance? So that's your because that would be helpful. And then the third one I was thinking was health and safety.
So so the first 2 or 3, if we were putting them into 3, are self-explanatory. Health and safety.
The reason I say this is what I'm thinking is this, right? And it goes back to a discussion we had right at the beginning, Martin, you and I, right? Which was, imagine if we had an accident book for the industry.
Okay, yeah. So you're talking about logging significant events or incidents under health and safety of approach, more globally.
Yeah, whatever the industry decides. So, we talk about black box, or I talk about black box approach. The aviation industry came together and it shares information about accidents on a no names, anonymous, no blame culture. And as a result of that, the industry has got better. And it's the safest industry in the world. Imagine if we had a very simple process, again on a no names, a common accord, blah blah blah, some sort of thing. So and it was linked into this device. So we create that accident. So then in effect, you as Morgan Sindall, you can, if you signed up to it, you get this free information about the industry's accidents.
So it would be a bit like the stuff we get out the National Statistics Office, but more rounded, because National Statistics Office is only stuff that's been formally recorded, and we know that
and submitted, formally recorded and submitted.
Yeah, and we know that half the industry won't even know what is required because they're the white van man industry, and we won't get to them yet. But slowly but surely, these things could potentially infiltrate that industry as well, that part of the industry.
Yeah. So I think we need to be
Yeah, sorry, Charlie. Yeah.
I think we need to be sort of quite cunning about how we market this to the different people. So you've got your tier one industry where they're going to be most interested in the health and safety aspect. Then it goes down to your subbies. There for the foreman down there, that's going to be really the people management, the time management. How long are your boys on site for, sort of thing. And then actually down to the individuals, it's looking at, this will fill out your timesheets. This will give you your payroll, your fair pay, that sort of stuff. So do we need to kind of split this a little bit of how we diverge off into these kind of 3 key clients, 4 key clients? Because is it going to work if we have a completely bundled all in one approach?
Yeah. So what you do is you say, right, time and attendance, induction and competency. If we bundle them together, health and safety. You say these are the 3 things the core ecosystem is going to do. Now, if you're a tier 1 contractor, this is the benefits you get from those. If you're a tier 2 contractor, these are the benefits. If you're a subcontractor, this is what you get. And you basically draw the customer journeys around those 3 killer apps, Charlie. And so basically it gets down to, if you're a white man van, you've got access to health and safety generally. You've got your timesheets covered. You've got all of that. You're doing your online induction, so you're getting onto site more quickly. Blah blah blah. The tier 1s are agreeing to pay for things better and all of that sort of stuff. So we have this little we have this customer personas is what we call it in software terms.
Yeah. So it's a case of working out who's paying for what then out of those 3 groups. Isn't it?
Once we've worked out what the hardware costs, what we think the software costs to deliver this for the industry, then we say, right, so we need to find 2 million quid. I've just picked a number there, 10 million quid, whatever the number is, right? What we then need to do is build a revenue model. Now, I actually think, I think this is so interesting to people that we would be able to find, and John is probably on the same page as me, the likes of Amazon, big accounting firms, and as Martin has identified, anybody who's not in the industry today is likely to see this as a big opportunity. Because I mean, Martin, correct me if I'm wrong here, but there's probably nearly 1.5 to 2 million people checking into building sites every day in the UK.
Yeah, so in the tier of business that I work in, I think there's something like 2.7 million people working. So and most of that's in England. There's about 400,000 people working in the construction market in Scotland. Yeah. And I don't know the figures for Wales. I only know the Scotland ones because of dealing with COVID and talking to the Scottish government about getting us back to work. Yeah. And then on top of that, you've got another 40% of that is the white van man, which at the moment we won't get to, but we're still trying to get them to understand the premise of wearing a hard hat. But
so I think if we make it free for them, then that's how we get to them, isn't it? So if we give them a benefit to their timesheets and their pay, and then we
I think so, Charlie. The challenge, Charlie, is I know a couple of local builders, and I don't really know how they figure out their pay scales and when they're working. Their guys, that bloke gets 90 quid a day, that bloke gets 150 quid a day, and I don't really know how they work it out. I don't know how they manage their accounts, receipts, and as a small, if you're a one man builder building a house for Mrs. Miggins, those are the sort of things that are probably a real challenge for you, is knowing that your plasterer turned up on time. They'll also be really suspicious because they'll think everything is Big Brother. So they're the ones that won't be. If they were to come to one of our projects, they would hate it because they'd be like, "Well, you got CCTV. Well, you want me to use my fingerprint? You want me to? You give me my CSS card? You want to take a photo of me? You want to do drugs and alcohol testing?" All of those things would be completely alien to them. But let's be honest, 20 years ago, it was alien that we put safety nets up on buildings to put roofs on. Now it's a mandatory must do. 15 years ago, we had handrails at a set height. So the only way we change the industry is to make change and then feed it in from the top down. Let's to say that in 20 years' time, this little gizmo is sitting on everybody, and it's given us the ability to properly map the industry. What a great thing to get to the end of your career and go, not only did I have a really successful career in Morgan Sindall, but we actually impacted the industry fully. Cheers. So Thanks, Richard.
I agree with that. I'm like you, Martin. I'm thinking about the end game and working backwards.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
I'm thinking about the end game and let's work backwards. So,
selfishly, obviously, there's a selfish bit of me that wants to make my life easier in Morgan Sindall, and that means I can win more work. I can do more jobs for clients, and we can be more successful and be better than we are. But the other bit is that everything we do in Morgan Sindall, we hope has an impact on the industry wider. And I know Mark at ISG is the same. Yeah. I know Mark at Wilmots is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think, well, that's the reason we're all here, isn't it? Why I took my job, certainly.
Yeah. So if you take your
stuff
point,
we do and make my hair.
Martin, that you've got hair.
I know. I just noticed that.
What about me?
Well, I had a haircut, and my barber's clearly gone a bit crazy. He's made me survive till next February by the looks of it. Just noticed how short it is. I only had it cut yesterday.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Yours is short. Look at mine.
Yeah, you need to have a word with your barber, Gerard.
Exactly. Yeah. Last time I saw a barber, Duran Duran were number one.
You didn't go to barbers then. In those days, you went to the hairdresser because of hairspray.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, you're right. Actually, that's right. So look, I agree. So I did have a question for you around this. Then, so M-Site could become a competitor of ours on this. So is M-Site expensive?
Is M-Site expensive? Yeah. So a project based depends what you buy with M-Site. So if you are, so we have M-Site split into two halves. We have it hardware and software. So software is mandatory. So software is pre-registration, and then project orientation those are the terms we use. And then there's an app, and that is a set cost per month. And I won't share the contract with you, but I can let you know. I'll look up the exact cost and give you that.
I'm just interested.
I can share that with you.
We'll need that when we build a revenue model.
Yeah, absolutely. The software is not massively expensive. Their model is obviously they've got currently 111 projects using it for me, and they've got loads of projects for Balfour. So their model is lots of commodity going in. The hardware I think is quite expensive, because the hardware is big turnstile, so there's lots of costs of deliveries anywhere in the country. There's lots of maintenance issues because of these things have lots of springs and mechanisms in them, and the hardware can be quite pricey, sort of on a project up to a year and a half, 18 sort of £1,000 just for a turnstile, which can rile my guys quite a lot, because we don't mandatorily make them do it. But then you go, well, we want 2 turnstiles, or we want, some other projects have got 6 or 7 turnstiles, so that they'll be spending 100 grand on hardware.
Is there a model, right, for all the tier ones to get together and say, right, this is the turnstile we all want, right? And there's just freestyle for a second with me. There's a big shed or a yard in the middle of the country which has got all of these turnstiles that all of you tier ones pay a flat fee for, and then you just draw them in and draw them out, and then you have this eyesight type platform that we developed for the pre-registration, orienteering or induction and competencies that we're calling, and the timesheets and the health and safety. So that i.e. it absolutely reduces your costs for all of you, but you're all using the same system or systems. Is that something you think that would?
I think
is possible.
In concept, the challenge is that other than in some aspects of safety, quite a few bits of the industry don't play very well, do they?
No, I which is why I want to build it on this, because if we build a common accord, you always said to me, we don't compete on safety.
No, absolutely.
And if we can build a common accord around that, I think people will get that. Well, why do we all have to do this differently? Why are we all doing timesheets differently? Why are we all doing that different? And then in effect, there will be a construction platform developed off the back of it that you will all benefit from, and then it will reduce your cost, improve your productivity, improve your safety, and then you all go, oh, why weren't we doing this 20 years ago?
In simple terms, you would like to think that that would be a solution with hardware. The challenge. So the reality of hardware is it's not so much getting it. It's either it being manufactured, being properly maintained. But the real challenge is the amount of mechanical failure. Some of these things are designed to do 1 million rotations, and my experience is they've never survived 1 million rotations in their life.
So is there? So 2 questions really. One, are they even required? If you've got other stuff going on.
I'm of an opinion that turnstiles are interesting because in Morgan Cinder we're quite diverse in the way we work. So if I've got a project in central London where I'm in a high risk area for theft, terrorism, then access control is quite important to us because we're let's say we're doing a job for Pagabo. It's under Pagabo, and we're building a lovely state-of-the-art building in central London. There's £30 million worth of asset there, and we want to be able to control people in and out because we don't want them getting in, doing bad workmanship, damage, theft. Now, there's a lot of that goes on in the industry. At the same time, I can take you to other projects where we've got 10, 11 million pounds worth of work ongoing, and we don't use access control because we're in the middle of Cornwall. We're in a low risk area, and we go, no, we don't need to do this. We still have access points, and we still have door entries. Now, if you go to some of our offices, we don't use fingerprint access control. I walk past an iPad that's on reception, and it logs me in on my phone. And that is there you go. I've got a sign-in app to tell me that I signed in this morning, and then somebody will be able to log in and go, oh, Martin's in the office today if they wanted to. Now
we have one of them.
Yeah. Now to me, that means you can't not sign in, which is really important because, or more importantly, not sign out, because a lot of the issues, not so much. The thing with turnstiles is you're locked into the site, so you have to use your fingerprint to get out. So we know that you're in and we know that you're out. When you've got other projects where we're using bits of paper, you often find that people don't sign out because at the end of the day they're keen to get home. They forget to sign out. No other reason. They're not being a pain in the arse. But if it was automatically done, where when you walked past a barrier or a post, or you went through a hooped gate and it went, oh, Martin's off site now, we'd have much better knowledge of our time and attendance, who's on site, our risk profile, and then we would need to think about in higher risk environments. And I know the likes of like Lend-Lease, they've got Elephant and Castle, they've got 3,000 people on that project. They've got multiple gates. It probably works for them to have turnstiles. If you're in Sellafield, it's a high risk secure area, you have turnstiles. So it's about, for us, it's a balance. It's a risk assessment, security risk assessment.
Yeah, so the turnstile isn't to control isn't to record the access, it's to control access.
Yeah, it's access control.
Yeah,
and to be honest, it doesn't do, it depends how you set up a turnstile system. But if let's say, for instance, you went to one of our projects and you've got a turnstile to get into the welfare, and then from the welfare you can get to the project. That's not telling me you're on the work. That's telling me you're in the welfare. So sometimes we have two. So you have one to get through into the welfare, and then you have one to get into the works area. Now that tells me that you're in the works area. Now if we had the system where you can go, oh no, the system tells me where they are because he's actually on the 5th floor, or actually he was in the basement, or actually he was in the welfare for 3 hours. Because that's one of the things we find. We find when you split the project down like that, you notice that the lads spend up to 30% of their day sitting in the welfare. So they're at work, but actually 30% of the day is in the welfare. Out of an 8-hour day, they're spending 3 hours sitting in the welfare.
Well, our eyesight would be able to identify that, Martin,
exactly,
because it's going to have coordinates on it. So
so potentially you've got the ability to not need a turnstile, and if the eyesight gave you the ability to activate a turnstile, so that when you walked up to it, it recognised you, and then it went, "Welcome, Martin," and let you through. So you could use, because some organisations would be horrified at not having turnstiles. I'm pretty open about it. It's right and proper when we need it, but some organisations are very much, we must have turnstiles on every project because it's the way they are.
Do you think you could buy the turnstiles without the software from M-Site?
Nah, M-Site, yeah, because M-Site don't manufacture their own; they buy them in. So somebody somewhere makes turnstiles.
Yeah.
Because
okay.
Biosite manufacture their own in Solihull, because I've seen the factory where they make them. M-Site buy them in from somewhere. The M-Site ones are really unreliable, so I wouldn't go to buy them from there.
Okay. All right. So John, there's a thought then in your mind, because can we come up with a modern? What's the Uber solution for turnstiles? And can we do it? What we do now? By the way, I don't want an answer now. I don't know if you got an answer now, unless you've got one. But
it's one of those sort of classic things where So in the olden days, there would have been a load of kind of turnstile manufacturers, and they made their money out of buying and selling and installing turnstiles. And then on top of that, then you sit kind of a load of technology that starts being put on that, but then you're sort of a hardware manufacturer making software. And then you move to being a software manufacturer, but you can't really enter the software market unless you've got the hardware market. And building and maintaining a hardware kind of company is very different from building and maintaining a software company. So I think you're exactly right with thinking, Jared. The Uber model, by that we mean what's the kind of marketplace connector that sits on a load of existing incumbent hardware. How would you commoditize the hardware provider and build the data on top of it and not deal with the grief of maintaining hardware? Is exactly that.
I think if the issue was about recording, you could easily, Martin, build a low-cost beacon type thing, whereby if you imagine an archway where you walked through it, you'd have something around it which would identify with your eyesight device, and that would be fine. That's a dead easy, but there's no barrier. And we could maybe come up with, correct me if I'm wrong here, we could maybe work with a manufacturer and come up with a much simpler one whereby as you walk up to it, it identifies you and it stops you, and then it opens something up, i.e. make it a real, if the problems are they're not reliable, they're expensive, maybe there's a way to disrupt that market as well at the same time. But if it was just a case of walking through and then knowing you're there, that is dead easy, and that would cost very, very little for you. It's the one where you need to put a barrier because there's sensitivities on the other side.
Yeah, and there's a bit of me. I don't know all of these organisations, but the couple that I do know, the one organisation that is much more innovative and is, to me, a proper R&D organisation is Biosite. Right. They've got a whole Biosite learning platform. They went exactly what John just said. Their original model was buying turnstiles in, and that didn't work. So they now manufacture their own in a little factory in Solihull. So they're probably, and I don't know, they're owned by, they got bought out last year or this year by one of the world's biggest security access control organisations, ABSOI, and they're probably the only people that I'm aware of that might even entertain a conversation over this.
Yeah,
because they might see this. Your anchor tenant might be them.
Yeah. That's
to add to kind of the bit before. So, Jared, your little kind of archway and beacon type thing, could we add in tools and plant to that as well then? So you go in and it basically got a kill switch if it leaves the site, and therefore that would put off it being stolen. So Charlie, what you say there is quite. What I see there is a similar thing, but just a slightly different slant on it. Is more along the lines of the killer things: time and attendance, competency training, health and safety. So one of the challenges I'm trying to wrestle with at the moment is hand-arm vibration.
and actually logging decent. Now, yeah, I can throw accelerometers at people and I can give them have aware, but actually culturally that's quite difficult because it's another piece of kit to wear, and it's got to be charged, and it only has an 8-hour battery life, etc., etc., etc. Wouldn't it be good if once we've got through some of the killer parts of this, and we've gone, yeah, I've got that, that it logged a piece of kit that you're using.
Yeah.
So Martin Hall goes to a project. I'm wearing my tag. It's on my jacket. It's wherever I'm wearing it. I've got it on a medallion around my neck if I'm in the tunneling world, because I wear a medallion in a tunnel just so that they know I'm on the project. And then when I walk up to that piece of machinery, without me having, and that's the problem with it at the moment, you have to go, okay, right, pair. Oh bugger, it's the bloody thing's fallen off because they're glued onto the side of the units. Actually having that intelligence for it to know that it's a F90 rock drill, that it puts out 2.5 meters seconds per squared vibration, and that if I'm on it for more than 3 hours, a red alert should come up for me because I've been overexposed. Now if we could, that is a real challenge for the industry, managing halves properly, because you end up having to buy Havaware or Curo, and for me the systems don't work in my world because we're very heavily subcontract reliant, and you end up bloody the Havawares are expensive and they get nicked because they look like a nice fancy watch. They're of absolutely no value to anybody once they get them off our site, but that doesn't mean anything.
How are these manufacturers of like these drills and stuff not building these things in? Because it seems odd that the whole industry is struggling with it.
Well, the challenge is that the manufacturers are worldwide, aren't they? They're not UK wide. So Milwaukee, by their name, are manufactured in America, but are a massive presence in the UK now. So Milwaukee are doing a lot of good work around this. DeWalt don't seem to be doing diddly squat, even though they're a huge manufacturer, because they're more of a fashion brand than a real tool. Yeah. Makita seems to be losing the marketplace, and all of these manufacturers are constantly fighting with all the different countries' legislation, which is why we need to build something that we can attach to a Black & Decker DIY drill that you buy from B&Q for 30 quid, or a Milwaukee drill that you buy from a dealer for 700 quid. And that's the range that we're dealing with. And they haven't even figured out the same battery yet. Everyone's got a different battery model. So you go to a project and you go, Christ, we've got more lithium X batteries on this site than bloody BP electric power supplies have got. That if we could have one battery for every piece of kit, think how much waste we'd save in the UK economy.
Don't DeWalt do that now? I've seen it on the TV.
Yeah, but only mixes with Bosch. Only mixes with DeWalt and Bosch, and it's really expensive.
So if you have a tool registered to a user, and it logs its amount of time it's used, it logs what site it's on, so it can't go off site unless it's deregistered from that site. You can solve a lot of problems that way.
I think so, yeah. And there's an awful lot of engagement to be done under that, because you're not talking about things that tier ones like to do. We're talking about tier one things that you have to do in law. Yeah. So suddenly you'd be engaging, because like if you've got an accelerometer in something, and then you're suddenly relying on it to stand up in front of a man in the court, you're being prosecuted or you're being sued. You'd need an awful lot. There's a lot of science that goes into that to be able to go. Morgan Sindall knew that we were doing the right thing because we had a piece of paper that said that piece of kit had been properly monitored, measured. Yeah. So now that's not to say we shouldn't do it, but they're all the real challenges that you see with things like Curo and Havaware.
I think what you talk about there, Charlie, is stuff. Once we've got a platform, we can build those ideas.
Yeah, definitely.
But I'm wondering whether we should approach Bicep. I've just done a little bit of checking on their website. They're quite a small company, but they are, as you say, part of this Assa Abloy.
Yes, they were bought out. So the MD, I know the MD really well.
Lee Wang is called.
Lee
Is that right?
Lee Wang, yeah, I've known Lee for years. Lee is a super clever, stupidly clever individual who wrote an algorithm at university, and that algorithm is a fingerprint algorithm, and then he built a business of fingerprint readers, and then he tried to sell it to the military and didn't work. I think he tried to sell it to the military, and then he went, actually we could use it in construction, and he slowly built a business, and then last year he took the dollar and sold. So he now drives around in a really nice Porsche. That's all I do know. He's changed. So, but a quick story about him. If you want to embarrass yourself, I had a meeting with him in London about a year and a half ago, and I said I'd arrange us to go for an evening meal. I've known him for years. We were having a meeting, and I said, "Oh mate, I've booked us a restaurant in Chinatown," and then I went, "Just to clarify, you are English Chinese?" And he went, no, I lived in Beijing till I was 22. And I was like, I may have made a huge faux pas here and booked a Chinese restaurant for a first generation Chinaman. And I took him to this little spit and sawdust restaurant that I love. It's proper Chinese and he loves it. But yeah, lesson learned there. Go to a steak restaurant when you're in London, when you're entertaining somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, sorry about that.
Right, so I'm wondering, so I think before we approach him, why don't we John and I are going to start to map out what this is. I think the core system is where we are now. So orienteering, induction, registration, whatever you call that, competencies and training, which I see them as two different things, because I see a wider application or a set of applications for training, just purely so I could see it coming in. I think the health and safety, and also it's time and attendance, a simple on-site time and attendance that could be used to do all the things you are doing for your subbies, but also for the subbies to actually help them with some accounting and financial piece and business.
And
if we did those two things, yeah, exactly. So if we draw out the core system, that's really what we want to do, and that's really what my use case is. So I think the core system is going to be that, and then what we've got to find. Then I'm going to do some stuff on a revenue model just for the whole industry, which I'll do some work on, Martin, and I'll share it between us all, and might get some bits. So I could do with some ideas around what you pay for buy M-site or buy site now.
I'll get the contract out, Gerard. I don't have it in front of me. I'll get the contract out and I'll share those costs with you between us.
Yeah, we'll do it, and I'll just use it internally for this, really, and then once we've got what we think it would take to, and I'm going to look at it in grand scale, right? This is a platform. I'm going to look at the cost of a platform for the construction industry, and say, right, based on 3 million people using this each year, I'm going to look at the cost of doing that, and then once we understand what the costs are, we can work out how we're going to pay for it, because you're already paying a load of money to some people, Martin, which can be diverted. There's a load of other money being paid elsewhere, which could be brought in. Could we then sell the data to other people? And there's loads of ways you can create a revenue model. And once we've got that, if whatever we came up with knocked 95% of accidents out, and did 95, if we're at that sort of level where we're making fairly elephant-size improvements to things, then that's got to be worth that. Then we've got that. So I'll start work on that then. So on the technology side, John, when do you want to just give us a very quick update on where you're up to with that and how we're getting on with that?
Sorry, yeah. So we've got sort of a guy here at C4AI. So he's built the prototype boards. We've got a basic board that's up and running and kind of working. It's a bit too big at the moment, but the general nuts and bolts of it's working. So the first bit is all the kind of technology that sits in a piece of hardware and does is capable of doing all the tracking. That's been updated slightly to incorporate the remote connectivity that Gerard mentioned at the start, using kind of SIM cards. And the next bit of work we're going to start on with Gerard and I've been sort of turning in front of is the kind of data systems that it connects to. So how do we set out on the right foot of making the platform where the data lands, so that we can then, I think it was one of on one of the previous calls we had, somebody was saying, actually, there's really important things about gathering as much data as you can, and then we ask the questions of it, and that's exactly the approach we're taking, where we'll start to gather all the data. We've got a platform that will make it easier to interrogate that data and ask questions of that data. But that's the next bit we're working on at the moment.
Are we going to get? So at the moment, this thing's it's not as big as that, is it? But it's not tiny.
It's
but
not as big as
so
that, yeah.
you're not dragging a huge car battery around at the moment.
No, not that. It's not plugged in either. But one bit of it is that then we had a really good conversation with the AMRC. I can't, was it last week or the week before? Yeah, and looking at ways in which they might be able to help on it. And there's some good stuff. Jared found a really nice bit of kit that was kind of ruggedized, and so we were looking at that and saying, actually, could we work with the AMRC to say, well, how could you build the enclosure better? How could you ruggedize it a bit better? How could you make it more robust? There'll be facilities there for testing and trialing things, drop tests, vibration tests, all sorts of things, as well as IP, whatever rating.
So we have Pagabo has got a memorandum of understanding now with the AMRC, and they're the people who set up all the aviation partnerships. So they're now a strategic partner for us on this project. And they got access to government money. So things like, so obviously we're all going to chuck some money in, and they're going to chuck a load of research in for us to help us. So some of the things we talked about last time, like, does it work at -20? Does it work underwater? They can do some of these tests for us.
Yeah, that's quite useful, because you will get people like me asking all those questions.
No,
that's the sort of stuff that we like to ask.
Well, and it's all relevant, because not every building site is operating at sort of 17 degrees, is it?
No, certainly not.
Above ground level. So we do that. Okay, so I think that's so that's where we're at. So on mine, let me just look at my notes. And so the competencies I've covered, the GSM I've covered, the hardware John's just given a brief thing. We won't have anything to play with, will we, until obviously not before Christmas, John, but no, will we have something to play with and look at in the new year, even if it's...
definitely early new year.
Okay, okay. So, I mean, it might be useful, I think, in January, we should try and get a physical face-to-face.
Do you know, Gerard, I was just going to say, could we have a real meeting?
Yeah, well,
I travel the country. I'm happy.
Chinese.
Go for a Chinese.
Let's get Lee out. I'm quite happy to come to a meeting. We've got, if you want to, I've got meeting rooms dotted around the country. That as long as I know how many people, I can try and book a meeting room for the right number of people. Obviously, our meeting room limitations. Or anyone. It'd just be nice to have a real meeting, wouldn't it, face to face?
So what we'll do is we'll use the C40I, which is John's building, which is a beautiful building. The boardroom can fit 25 people in socially distance. So
Brilliant.
Got a great view, and all the people who are working on the stuff are going to be downstairs in the building. So
excellent. Yeah, that works for me.
So I think what we'll do is I'm going to give Mark a ring and Dave a ring. Dave from Yonder's already been, actually. He's met the guy who's doing the development, actually. Dave Newitt's met him from. So if we look at having the next sort of meeting, probably third week in January. Does that work for you? Are you on holiday or anything, Martin? Or
no, it's okay. So I can currently do that week. I can do Thursday or Friday. I've got all those days free at the moment. Thursday or Friday.
Would you come here on the train as well, or drive, or what would you do?
Where is it? Remind me where I'm going.
Hull.
I'll drive that.
Yeah. Okay.
At the moment, so don't worry about that. I'm a commercial driver almost. So Hull is only halfway up the country, so that's fine. I'll tie it in with something else. So preferably Thursday for me, because then I don't have to be late on a Friday. But if it's a Friday, c'est la vie, life is such.
No. Why don't we, Charlie? Let's pencil in, and we'll send a note out later on today or tomorrow to everybody. We'll pencil it in for 10:30 on Thursday, the 21st.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
So while we're there, is there any chance? While we're there, is there any chance, John, of getting a bit of a tour of all the things you do there? Because I'm a great believer, and I don't know what I don't know until you tell me. So there might be something I go, Jesus, that is a perfect solution. It'd just be nice to see what you guys do.
Definitely.
So
yeah, absolutely. Love to do that. Yeah.
yeah, brilliant. If just a quick tour, show me what goes on in the place would be brilliant.
Love to. Yeah, that'd be great.
All right. So what we're now going to do, so if you can get some of that info back to us on the buyer site, M site, whichever one you use, that's fine. Then or both of them if you're using mixed match, then that way, because it once we've got a revenue model, we need an anchor tenant. I think CSCS card refresh could be an anchor tenant. I get your point. The buyer site man could be. I've looked at their website, and they're clearly very focused on what they do. So I think they could be an interesting platform for us to build that part of it on, John.
Definitely.
Because they aren't going to be thinking about all the other stuff we're talking about, but at the end of the day, there's 2 or 3 players in this space. What we're talking about is trying to do a deal with one of them who, if it works, they'll become the dominant force, won't they?
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
the point. And so you're better off talking to somebody like BuyerSite, because albeit they're part of a bigger company now, the kid behind them, he's an entrepreneur, isn't he? So
yeah, definitely. He is definitely and that's why. Because at the moment, so we're currently contracted to M site, but I'm talking to BuyerSite because I think BuyerSite are more forward thinking and will be able to respond to more agilely to my business needs.
Okay. Well, then that sounds like if we're going to talk to anybody, it sounds like they're the people we should be talking to then, Martin. So okay.
Well, they're certainly someone that we could have a discussion with, aren't they?
Yeah. Okay.
And I'll get the I'll dig out. I'll go into our commercial pages and dig out our costs of M site.
Yeah,
so
okay. All right.
So you got some idea?
Yes, please. Yeah, because I want to start building a revenue. So John, we'll start to look at that next week.
Yeah.
We'll start to map that out. So okay. I think that covered all my list. Charlie, did you want to speak to Martin about Mood Beam, or what do you want to do?
We found 6, Charlie.
Oh, so yeah, I got your email. Thanks for that. Do you want to have a chat? Not now, but some other time, maybe.
Yeah, can we? Let's put. Can we? Because I've got meetings back to back today, and then we're wrapping up. Obviously winding the business down, and then getting ready for safe start in the new year. Yeah. I'll drop you and my PA an email, and then we'll book something for the 2nd or 3rd week of Jan to talk through what we can do. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I'll line up Mood Beam to join the call.
I've also chased the Hackney project up and said, where are all the ones you had at Hackney? Because they had a load of them there. They didn't really use them, so they must be somewhere. So I think so. If I can find the ones at Hackney, then we've got more of them again.
Okay. Sure, great. Okay, well I'll look out for that.
I knew I should have charged Sean Bradley for them.
I can't possibly comment on that statement, Gerard.
He did agree to pay for them, but I never raised an invoice, so it's my fault, really, I suppose. But anyway, but if you get involved in the study, that's a much more cost-effective thing. 500. It's a dead easy thing for you to get involved in. So, and we're getting quite a lot of traction on that now. So I think we're going to end up with some good. So it'd be great to have you on board, because it's just another perspective on that study, really, Martin.
Charlie, just might as well. I'm just thinking, why bother hassling my PA? I can't do the first week of January. I could do something on Monday the 11th. I've got 3 appointments on the 11th, but could we do a Teams call at 12?
No, I think I'm busy all day Monday.
Okay, fine.
Well, yeah. He's doing some stuff with me, you see, on the.
That's right. What about 15th? Then I can do. I've got 9 till 10 on the 15th free that week on the Friday.
Yeah, perfect. Let's do that.
I'll drop you an email. I'll drop you an invite.
Cool.
Teams.
All right. So I think that was quite useful, that, John. I think now it's firmed up in my mind. We're going to have 3/4 killer apps, as we call them, or anchor apps, or whatever we call them. And it looks like we might be able to. The industry is already paying for these things in some shape. So there's income there for us to leverage. And there's also opportunities to bring external parties in who might be able to help fund it and do things a bit differently. And I think if we can build it around timesheets, health and safety, registration, competencies, they're all things that would have a massive impact on on the safety, productivity, and future of the sector. So therefore,
totally agree,
so that's a common accord we can sort of strike. So okay.
Gerard, what I'll do is I'll do you a Miro board of kind of which you can kind of grow out these ideas from. So you've got, your anchors and then what it's going to mean to each one, how they can link up and stuff and things like that. So I'll have a little play around with that, see if I can kind of get some thoughts out for it. Yeah. There was another quick update. Flex. Martin, I don't know if you remember the guy who had the
Rob Lewis
physio kind of app thing.
Yeah, Martin's interested in that.
Yeah, we was gonna. Weren't we gonna get access to it so we could just go and have a little play with it?
We were, and we still are. He phoned. Well, I spoke to him on Monday, and he said it's ready on Apple Store, but they're waiting for the Play Store. But he doesn't want to release it publicly until they're both ready. But he said to me on Monday, any minute now. It's quite a long minute.
Because
I'm open.
So we're in a process,
and then
where it ties in really well with the current location. In my opinion, it ties in really well with the position that we find ourselves in the industry. So I've come into the pool office this morning, and I'm the only person here. I've had to unlock because clearly they're either on site or they're working from home. And then, which means that they're probably not working in the same conditions they would be if they're sitting at their nice desk with all the 5-point chairs, etc., etc. So having an app that helps them with things like musculoskeletal structure ties in really well with where we find ourselves in the industry. And let's be honest, even though we're not closing any of our offices as a business, and we won't be, certainly won't be at the moment, and it's not the intention to, I think the new world is people working from home more.
Yeah.
And that ain't going to change. But I don't think I don't think people are going to want to come into an office if they're just doing an admin role that they can do if they've got the facility. So we've done a home working pack, which is like a risk assessment for them, which they've all had to do. But actually, this little app that we're talking about would potentially, if it doesn't fall over and it is what we saw, which is always a challenge. What they sell you is never what you get, in my opinion. If it is what we think it is, that would be really good for Morgan Sindall's responsible business strategy for our occupational health strategy.
So what? Yeah, he's gonna let me know when it's on these stores, so you can then download it, and then I'm gonna, once it's available, I'll just basically email him with everyone's name, yours included, and say he's willing to give us a month for free, basically.
Yeah,
so
brilliant. That's what we want. We can just and then obviously the cost model as to how you use it, how we control it. Is it something that we can put on our apps at work store? So we've got our own. We don't use the public apps profile. We use apps at work so that we can control people's phones, and then so we've got the ability to push stuff to all of our company phones without people downloading it. They don't get a choice; it just gets sent to them, and then it just appears on their phone in the morning. Oh, I've got a new app, which we do fairly regularly because we want people to have stuff. And then I thought it was really good. I thought it was like, that is really clever. I like the fact it's not just it's more of a diagnosis tool, wasn't it, from memory, it's
a diagnostic tool, correct?
Yeah, and that for me would be really good, because you could get people, could get early intervention instead of people waiting and then going, oh, my back really hurts. You go, well, is it any wonder your back hurts? You've been sitting in a deck chair for the last 9 months. But they could be doing it early days.
Yeah.
They don't all, sadly, they don't all think the way I think, unfortunately. If we could get them thinking like that, we'd be fine, but they don't.
Right. So the action, Charlie, is as soon as it's available, the guys, Martin included, will download it. And then if it turns out to be the right thing, then what we'll do is we'll come up with a construction revenue model for everybody.
I think so it looks like, right? And then we'll have to.
Okay with that, Martin?
About it.
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing for me is to see it and play with it.
Yeah, does it work?
Yeah, see it, play with it, and then I'll try and break it, because with all technology, that's the first thing that my guys will do. is break it. So I'll try and break it, which
Sure.
we're better off breaking it in this circle than we are breaking it when we've pushed it out, because that then makes it look bad on me.
Hey, I think that's the right way. So, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, right, and Charlie, we'll speak a bit later. We'll get some dates out for the 21st. We'll get everybody. I'm going to give a couple of people a ring. I don't know where Frenchie is, but we'll give him a ring. Blah blah blah. Do that, and then I think we'll tee it up, John, next week, and we'll put some work into starting to build up some stuff around the revenue model and that sort of side of it. And I've got a vision in my head now about, we want these core, you know, what's the motorway in the middle going to look like, and who's going to access it, and then we just build it. What could this really grow into? So let's think about it for the whole industry, and then you know let's think about the big hairy ass objective, 20 years time, and work backwards and see where we get to. Okay. All right. Good. All right, Martin. So that's good. So, well, have a nice Christmas. When you off there? You off on Friday, Martin, or next week?
No, I'm working through till Monday, so I've got a couple more days to go. So, and then I'm off. So, yeah. Everyone have a good break. Enjoy Christmas.
Yeah, we'll do. Same to you.
You too.
Look after yourself, Mark. Thanks for your help so far, and looking for 2021 be a big year, I think. So that's what we want. Yeah,
definitely, and I look forward to coming up and having a face-to-face meeting. It'll be good.
Brilliant.
All right, have a good one, guys. Enjoy. Stay safe.
All right, same to you. I'll see you later, John. See you later, Charlie. Bye.
Bye.